I was actually quite lucky to catch you at a good time because you personally do spend quite a significant amount at sea on board vessels.
So I'll say the longest I stayed out in the sea was, I think, during the COVID, where I stayed out for 13 months without coming back to land. Yeah, so that's quite a long voyage.
Today we're joined by Donald Wellington. Donald works for the Kenyan Fisheries Service. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's really great to see you again, albeit virtually this time. How would you describe your background and your current work to someone? So let's say you meet someone at a birthday and they ask you the famous question, what is it that you do?
Thank you very much, Eva. It's nice seeing you again. I work for Kenyan Fisheries Service, and Kenya Fisheries Service is an institution or an agency in Kenya that has the mandate of management and conservation of marine fisheries and marine resources in Kenya. So we have we have been mandated to oversee the conservation and management of resources in Kenya. What I'll say, maybe just to give you a brief background of myself, a degree coastal and marine resources management. I later took my master's specializing in fisheries and marine fisheries. So after finishing my degree, I've had some few working experience, especially with the wildlife WWF Kenya, where I was specifically had some background experience on turtle conservation. Then I later joined Kenya Fisheries. That is in 2013. I joined as an intern, and here is when I had the exposure now of real fisheries. So this is where I developed, like, I had that direct interaction with our marine, because I had the privilege to work as an observer on board fishing vessels, which is something that I did passionately for 7 good years before I finally came on board, and I took this position now as a fisheries officer, which I am right now. Fisheries officer, also fisheries inspector.
It's very interesting. So you can definitely say you've seen the sector in Kenya from different angles and have been involved from those different angles. So someone who may not be so familiar with monitoring, control, and surveillance, or MCS, as we say, could you briefly mention what that is, and then in Kenya, how that is ultimately really just a key pillar to making sure that those marine resources are managed sustainably?
As a fisheries inspector or a fisheries officer with Kenya Fisheries, so I am in this department of the MCS compliance. So I would say the MCS actually is the backbone of fisheries management. We have those different departments, all those working together to ensure that this system, this chain, the monitoring, the control, and the surveillance works out perfectly when implemented outside there. So I will say I will add the aspect of enforcement also in the NCS we have there. So we have the data collection, we have the control measures we've put as Kenya Fisheries, we have the surveillance measures or tools that we normally use, and now we have the enforcement part where we always go out to do and make sure that all the control measures we've put are being followed through by the resource users or the fishing industry or something like that. So our MCS is robust. I would say it's robust. Very big, comprised of different departments. We have the enforcement, we have the compliance, we have those on quality, we have on data collection. So all these, we work together, and we collect all the output that comes, which guide us and gives us the way forward on what's supposed to be done in management measures that we have.
I was actually quite lucky to catch you at a good time because you personally do spend quite a significant amount at sea on board vessels as an inspector, unlike me, who does most of her seafood work quite comfortably from behind her laptop. You know, you're out there a lot. Could you tell us a little bit more about this part of your work and how you experience this?
Before getting this opportunity as working as a fisheries officer or an inspector, I've freely worked out in the sea on board fishing vessels. And that experience I gained through working as an observer for close to 7 years, where I was deployed on board commercial fishing vessels in Kenya. The trawlers, the longliners, the passeiners, you will go out for the longest time. You're out there. For the trawlers, it was like For a voyage, it will go like for around 45 days. For longliners, we'll go a voyage of around 4 months. And for passenger also around the 1 month or 2 months, depending on how the catch, how it comes. So I'll say the longest I stayed out in the sea, I was, I think, around during the COVID, where I stayed out for 13 months without
Wow.
coming back to land. Yeah, so that's quite a long voyage that we were out there. So my experience working in the sea has always grown. That interest has always grown. I passion working out in the sea. So when I came on board Kenya Fisheries Service, working as inspector, we do inspections. We go out there with our patrol boat. We have a patrol vessel. Those are one of the tools that we have. So we go out on this patrol as inspector, as a fisheries inspector, where we do at sea inspections. We do just impromptu visits. We get these fishing vessels. We go on board. We board the vessels to check on the compliance, on how they're using the gear compliance. And for trawlers, we check if they're correctly using the TEDs, the TEDs, the turtle excluding devices, if they have been placed fixed well in the nets, and a lot of things we check on documentation. And I would say our patrols or our enforcement when we go out is usually a multi-agency setup where we go out with different agencies who have interest in the maritime domain. So when we go out to execute this, we normally carry different agencies. We have the Maritime Authority on board. We have officers from labor to check on the conditions of the crew on board. We have the immigration team. We have the revenue team going on board. So once we board a vessel, all these normally go out there to enforce what they are mandated to do by their agencies. So it is usually a multi-agency setup. So we as Kenya Fisheries, we go and check what is relevant or what our act mandates us to do. And the other agencies go and enforce what they have to enforce. So that's how I still continue to interact with our ocean, to go outside boarding the vessels and all that, to board the vessels and do inspections.
Interesting. Yeah. And I mean, 13 months is certainly a challenge. I can't imagine that was maybe not the favorite experience, but I think it's really great to be able to talk to someone who has that experience of, being on board vessels in that way. You've touched on it a little bit. The technologies that you use, we know there's different fisheries technologies nowadays that are available that really help ultimately with managing, what you're seeking to manage with your MCS and then enforcement, as you rightfully added. What are some of the main technologies and tools that the Kenyan Fisheries Services relies on?
So I would say we are really, this industry or this field of fisheries, every day things are coming up and new technologies. The fishermen are one of the smartest people outside there. So you just really have to also go out with the technology and have better ways to do your surveillance and all that, because there are a number of ways. So I would say one of the best or the major breakthrough that we've done is having the VMS. Is something very important tool that really helps us in monitoring our flagged vessels in our EEZ, their movement and all that, and even when they go past our national jurisdiction, we can get to see them. So with the VMS, we have a lot of capabilities. Our VMS has a number of modules. We have the VMS itself where we get to see our flagged vessels. It has the AIS capability and the satellite capability and all that, and the radar capability. So with this, we get to see vessels, even the dark vessel, we can get to detect them just from where you are sitting and all that. You can do all these maneuvers, you work around with the system, and you get what you have to get. And also we are piloting, that's the second one, the EMS, electronic monitoring system, where we are installing cameras on board fishing vessels. So basically this one is for transparency in this industry. So we really need to have these cameras on board fishing vessels to complement actually the human observers. We also have the observers. So when the observers go, we also have the cameras. So with the cameras, we get that proper surveillance, and our cameras are real time actually. So we get to see these footages in real time as they happen outside there. So we have observers on board. We also have the cameras on board. So this is still on the pilot stage, but it's something that we're planning to upscale to all the vessels that we have. So we're going to, with due time, if everything comes out successfully, after the public participation or the stakeholder engagements and all that, is something that we're planning to scale up between the government and the stakeholders and the public. So something to have them embrace this aspect of having EMs on board. And it's also towards the fulfillment of the IOTC, our regional fisheries RFMO. That's the IOTC. So it's something we're moving towards that. And I also talk of Right now, we're also doing the electronic data collection. That is one of the technology that we've embraced, where we've equipped our field officers, those on the ground. So we have equipped them with tablets and all that. We've equipped them with systems where they can always do the reporting, real-time reporting on data when the fisherman comes. And this one is basically for the small-scale fisheries. So we have them spread across all the BMUs, the beach management units, spread across different landing sites. So this data they receive whatever when the fisherman comes in, they just put it into their gadgets, their phones, then directly transmitted to the database, the Kenya Fisheries database, the FIMS system. So the FIMS system is also one of the technology that we are embracing. It is up almost nearing completion with some of the components adding populating data coming in. So it is already up and running, but not yet that fully operational. But it's one of something that we want all the data, the fisheries data, to be coming to one database. All the EM data, the observer data, all be fed in one database. And maybe the fourth one, we rolling out we call it the Class BAS. The Class BAS, this one we are installing in the small scale fishing vessels. So we are installing these beacons in the small fishing vessels so that we can get to see, track them when they're out there. And the good thing about these beacons we are using, they also have the safety features. So it is a win-win for both the Kenya fisheries and also for the fishermen. So they can always have that panic button in case they are in danger. They can always press that button for help to come or for assistance to be sent towards them. So it is something that once it's rolled out, it will be of benefit to the fishermen because a number of lives have been lost. And you know, our fishermen have that desire to go deep out in the sea to get the tunas and all that. I think that's the technology also we are using. We need to see like all the vessel where they're fishing because you cannot manage what you can see. Let me just say that in a layman's understanding. You need to see where your fishermen are so that you can manage them well. So we just need to have them all under the radar. We get to see their movement where they're fishing, as we have done in the commercial fishing vessels with the VMS that one I mentioned earlier.
It sounds like a very diligent approach. And what I really love about how you're explaining it is that you're not just using one technology. You have your VMS for your larger vessels, and then in the context of RFMO fishing, generally would have then an observer requirement. You're there piloting the electronic monitoring, and then with smaller scale fisheries, acknowledging that some of those technologies are maybe, if you look at the cost, etc., not particularly realistic, using other types of technologies that are ultimately helping to still get their fisheries data into that same database for the management, but also supporting their safety. Would you say I understand that correctly, how you explained that? I think that's really excellent and how, just super comprehensive and well thought through. Would you say since you started your career in fisheries to now that there have been a lot of these innovations implemented and that there is just a difference in compared to maybe 10 years ago, what the Kenyan Fisheries Service can do now relying on these technologies for the fisheries management?
I would say the time that I joined up to now with the way we've embraced this technology, a lot of things have happened. And I would say this technology have really helped, especially in data collection. Right now, we get good quality data. That's the most important thing. You cannot manage fisheries without data. Data is very key. So first, we've really invested in making sure that we have good quality data from our data collectors. We've taken them in a number of trainings. We've equipped them with the gadgets to help them do these data collections. There are always those refresher courses that are given to them to always keep them upbeat in this field of data collection. So our main focus is data collection. The monitoring part, as I told you earlier, the MCS, the monitoring part is more on research and data collection. Getting that data collected, it guides you on what control measures you're supposed to put. Now that's the control that comes in. So with the control, definitely now directly connects you to the surveillance. So you always have to do surveillance of your systems to see whatever you've put in place, the control measures you put in place, are they being followed through? So with that, definitely you survey. Now you go to enforcement. You have to go on the ground. After you get worked on the desktop, you've gotten all that, you really know to go out on the ground to do the enforcement and make sure that whatever you want, whatever you've put, whatever you've implemented is fully followed through. So to make sure that chain, the MCS chain is not broken. Because you remove one, the whole system becomes useless. So that is one thing I would say we are really working to improve. We have really put a lot of finances. So I'll say there's a lot of change that has really happened in the technologies that we've embraced. And those were just a few we've mentioned. We also have now we intend to have soon we got a donor that is we intend to have drones to help us in our patrols and doing our surveillance. Moving around with the patrol vessel is very expensive. So definitely, so we're trying to embrace now the use of drones. So I think before the year ends, we'll have like 2 drones brought to us, high power, high level, high performance drones that can do even like over 200 kilometers out in the sea. They can go out over 200 kilometers. So this one definitely will cut the cost on moving around the vessel, the fuel cost and all that. So when we go out, we'll just be doing those targeted patrols based on what the drones footage will have informed us. So it will help us cover the bigger part of our EEZ when we go out for our patrols. So those are some of the technologies that we've really embraced.
I love how you mention the quality of data, because I feel very often we talk, fisheries data, but it really is so key to understand, are we talking about quality data? Because if you're ultimately basing your whole enforcement on the data that you've gotten there, you really have to make sure you have those safeguards for the quality. So going back a little bit in time, it seems, you have followed really a clear path in fisheries with a strong focus on the management of that resource. You've had roles at the State Department of Fisheries, and then the WF you mentioned as well, and then now the Kenyan Fisheries Service. Can you share maybe a pivotal moment, maybe it was a few moments that inspired you to study marine resource management and pursue this career?
Back then, as a young man, I'll say, maybe just to give you a short on how I found myself in the marine. I was born and raised in the coast. So what I mean by the coast, I was born just around the ocean, growing up in the ocean, going out to swim and all that, developing that passion. And to tell you the truth, my interest to work in the sea, I really wanted to be a captain, I would say, a navigator, to do the navigation out in the sea. So that is one thing I was like, if I grow up, I want my parents to take me out. I need to be a captain. I need to go around driving the ships that I see out there. So that's where I started. So after my O level, my KCSE, we call it the KCSE, the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. So there was this, how it came to selections of the courses that you really wanted to do. Then there came the course, the coastal and marine resource management. So that really got attracted to that, the coastal marine resource management. So this, I believed was something that will push me or bring me closer to what I really desire, working out there in our ocean. So I was like, I get there, then I just find my way. I get to navigation, to being a navigator. So I went my 4 years. I finished my bachelor's. So that's where when I developed, as we continued through the 4 years, I developed that passion for servicing our marine ecosystem. So once I finished, I got this little experience with internships and all that. I really got that urge now to specialize in fisheries, marine fisheries. I went out meeting people, encouraging me, the professors that were there, the marine professors that were there who took me through the school. So with this, the passion really grew up. So I will say right now, I am somewhere where my heart really wanted to be. So I'm working towards even getting deeper and deeper understanding this ocean of ours and see it, preserve it or conserve it for the next generations that we are supposed to have, because we have very important resources outside there that we really need to have our generations, our kids also come and experience the beauty of that.
You think you still ever be a captain, or you're just gonna stick with the management side?
I'm here. I stick with the management side, but if opportunity comes,
Yeah,
I can
still
always
have
go.
that
Yeah,
interest.
I can be a captain in a marine research vessel. So that happens. I'll be continuing with the passion in conserving our resources anyway.
I don't have any link in my family or growing up necessarily to the ocean or the fishery sector, but all the men in my family were captains. So that's actually the one part about the sector that I do understand a little bit better from an early age on. We've talked a lot about the Kenyan management system, and I think it's very clear that it's very comprehensive, well thought through. So let's take it a little bit broader. Let's look at East Africa and the broader region. If you look at the fisheries management there, what do you think, where should this sector be heading? What are maybe some of the challenges, required improvements, or do you say actually it's all going really well already? We just need to be a bit more loud about it, for instance. So yeah, where do you think the region should be heading?
We as the region, we call it the WIO region, the Western Indian Ocean region. We have around 8 countries, if I'm not wrong, around 8 countries. We're really collaborating. We're really working together in a number of things. One, I would say, the IOTC has really brought us together. It's really like trying to unify the management measures that we have across to ensure that the stocks that we have, especially the migratory species, the tuna, are like conserved across all this region for the benefit of like all the countries or the that are found in this region. So that is one thing that has really brought us together. Like right now we have the observer program, the regional observer program. That's something that we are trying to bring it up to have observer program for the region. And we also have, I would say, we have that regional MCS. We call it the SADC, where we can always exchange information. So this is something that has really shaped actually how we manage our fisheries resources in the region, in the sense that right now I can always get information. We have the regional MCS center, I think based is in Maputo, Mozambique. So with this, we get this information. For example, a vessel coming trained wants to fish maybe in Kenya. I don't have much information about it. I can always reach to the regional MCS, and they will always give us information of this vessel. They will go extra mile, use extra resources to give us this concrete information about a certain vessel, for example. So any vessel that involves in IOU will get their history, will get their what, because these are the things that we as a region, or we as Kenya are trying to, we don't want to have vessels that have been practicing IUU in other countries, then getting registered in Kenya. We normally filter all applications that come to Kenya for registration. We have to make sure that the vessels that come are totally clean, vessels that are not going to engage in illegal activities out there. So we normally do those background checks, frequent background checks. We compare with the countries regionally and all that. So that is one thing that has really, that information sharing between this region, it has really put us together. And through also the IOC, we have the PRSP program that conducts regional patrols. So where we consolidate resources, we consolidate resources as countries in the WIO. We carry out a regional patrol. We carry out patrol down the south all the way going north and up north to the Somali borders and all that. So working those together, pulling up these resources together, it has actually eased this work, the work of doing the surveillance or the patrol, the enforcement outside there. So I would say right now in the region, we are moving in the right direction. That collaborative measures that we've put in conserving or managing these resources that we have is actually really yielding. And I would say, compared to the past, the cases of illegal fishing, IUU from the distant water fishing vessels, has really been reduced greatly. Yeah, so that is one thing that as a region we are moving together in that information sharing. I would say is information sharing. That's the key important thing, sharing information between countries. Very important.
You're right, the information sharing between neighboring countries is so important. It can be really challenging. I hear a lot of times that regions are actually challenged with that because the data is protected, or maybe they don't always have the data, or there's not sufficient quality. Being able to do background checks on these vessels, checking an IUU registry, for instance, and that you're working on that regionally between the different countries, and that IUU may still occur occasionally, but really have seen how this type of collaboration has really helped in combating that. So in your line of work, are there any recurring challenges that you encounter?
Challenges are there. Challenges are there like everywhere. We cannot say like we've really exhausted, like now we are good, no challenges and all that. Is something, but we are working with what is there. So I would say one of the greatest challenges is born capacity building. That is one of the major way, like for example, as an inspector, I was a fisheries officer, a lot is needed, capacity building in terms of trainings. Every day new things are coming up, different fisheries crimes are coming up. So as an officer, you really need to keep yourself always like reading or attending these trainings, getting these trainings to get a broader understanding of these crimes as they happen. And I would say maybe as a country also, the number of the inspectors that we really need to have that number even increased, because we have a very big coastline, and we have like around I would say four active ports. So you get the distribution of inspectors across these ports is not okay, because it's limited because of the number of inspectors that we have. So with more trainings, more inspectors coming in, increasing the pool of these inspectors, definitely we're going to have all these ports covered. So for example, now you have to like travel maybe like even over 200 kilometers to go and do maybe a port inspection for a vessel that has called a certain port, for example, if it's a foreign vessel, because you are the one trained in the SML. So definitely no inspector, maybe or another one, can go out and do that. So you have to go all the way down there. So once we have these inspectors training, capacity building, more working tools available to them, definitely that is one challenge that we are going to like really have addressed properly. Another challenge, I would say, not only in my country, but just everywhere. I don't know in other countries, but I know in a lot of countries in Africa, there's a lot of issues of political interference. So that is something that really happens, like not only in Africa. So you go out, you do some arrests and all that. You know, the people that you've arrested when you're doing your patrols, these are people also for the politicians. These are the people that vote in the politicians. So they always go out crying to the politicians, hey, we're being harassed. This is where we get our livelihood. This is what, you know. So something like that, if the politician, the political class is not brought to understand, they don't understand like really how management is supposed to be done, how it's supposed to enforcement is supposed to be done, definitely it's going to be to pose a little bit of challenge to the inspectors or to the fisheries law enforcers. So you do some arrest, then there's that political interference coming in and all that. So you find that you whatever the arrest you've made is not does not proceed to prosecution or something like that. So you just have to like release the culprits or something like that. So this is one of the major things. But we as Kenya have really tried. We are really trying to have the political class in everything that we do. We move with them. We inform them. So the response has been over time has been very positive. They now quite understand what we mean by when we go out to enforce. It is a fisheries infringement is just like any other crime happening out here on land. So definitely the law has to be followed. Whatever has been put in fisheries management has just to be followed. Whatever the act says has to be followed, because that is something that never was really not well understood. And maybe just to take you back years, long time, maybe back then, fisheries was something that was like everyone had that belief fish can never get finished out there. You know, God is the one who brings fish. So we can fish. Our grandfathers were fishing. Fish has been there. We came. We are getting fish. So it's something that cannot be completed by saying using wrong gears or something like that. So this is something that we even are trying to share with the community, trying to share with the political class, make them understand this aspect of using maybe wrong fishing methods is something that can really deplete our fisheries resources. We are working on right now the MCS regulation. So working together on this shows that they have really gotten the idea on fisheries management is something that you're supposed to work together.
I think what you're telling will actually resonate with a lot of people in a lot of different countries, because what it ultimately really comes down to is that there's just a lot of emotion involved, and people, it's still people doing the fishing. It's people depending on the fishing for their livelihoods, and have been able to do that for a long time, because it all seemed okay until we started seeing that stocks were actually maybe not so healthy, and there is a limit, and it's not an infinite resource. Switching to something very positive, what was your proudest moment so far? So an achievement by you, could be by a team that you've worked in where you felt, well, we did a really great job there. That was really significant.
So my proudest moment, I would say, definitely for everyone, is having seeing yourself the effort that you've put somewhere has really been like recognized. Like out of that, there's an output that is there, tangible output that is there. People can go through, can read something on that, or can use something. For example, if it's a document or anything. I remember when I was still an intern, when I joined the Kenya Fisheries, we did a lobster stock assessment. I was one of the team. We collected data for quite a long time, that verifiable data, that good data that was collected. So with this data, since 2019, 2016, I remember that's when we finished, from 2013 all the way to 2016. So I would say my proudest moment is now this lobster management plan has actually been implemented this month as we're talking.
Wow.
So from that, yeah. So from that effort that we did all that time of the way, so it went through all that, the public participation and all that. So I will comfortably say that lobster management plan has actually been implemented, and it was actually this month. So it is a document that is in use already. We just had to take over that time. We were adopting some of the measures from the document. But right now, I'll say the document now is fully operational, has fully been implemented. All the measures that are in there are something now, right now, are supposed to be followed, especially in the lobster fisheries management plan. So that is one of the proudest things that I am. And I know it's a document that's going to be used for the longest time. It's going to be used by a lot of people, and it's for a good purpose, management of the lobster. And we did this one actually we needed to have our lobster certified definitely for the European markets. So one of the key things that we really needed was having a management plan fully implemented in place. So this is one of my proudest moments, to have seen that journey come through to actually maturity. That is after close to 10 years, if I'm not wrong, around 10 years, 9 years. So that's one of the proudest moments. And I'm happy it has come actually at this moment. You've asked me this moment that it is actually documented in this podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you should be proud of that. That is amazing because, you know, with some of the work you do, you never know, especially teams change, management changes, you know, you have political changes. Seeing that you've worked on this, it's resulted into a management plan, and then now it's implemented, and you're actually getting the feedback that this is going to help the sustainability of this fishery. Then finally, I would like to ask you if you would be able to go back in time and give your younger self some advice, something you would have really liked to know before diving into this career. What advice would you give?
Maybe advice to my younger self is like, be patient, but persistent. Being patient but persistent. That is one thing that has really been the key. I stayed as an intern for the longest time, close to 7 years. But because of that persistence and that passion for the marine has yielded, that made me be here today. We came, a lot of people that we had graduated with them, a lot of them fell out of the way. They even had to change courses. They went to different courses because they felt like they could not see. But I saw that focus. So being patient and persistent is one of the key important things that you really need to have in mind. The changes in this field is usually very slow. That's what I try to say. It's usually very slow. It's not something that you can see. Like you can see the way I've told you my proudest moment, that it was coming slowly until right now I can say there's a change that is seen. So it is in this field you really need to have that patience, because when you're bringing change, it is not only for you. It is for you, for it to be like well received by the community, especially the fishing community. It has to be very slow, like let them understand whatever you're doing, whatever you're planning, so that when it comes out, whatever it comes to implementation phase, they can always be received, and your efforts will not go in vain. And I remember I was telling you the last part was like invest in people. Investing people in terms of you build relationship with the communities, with your colleagues and the stakeholders. This is one of the valuable assets that is in this field, can really help you or ease in your work in this field. So really to build relationship as you go every day, build relationship with the community, get to understand them better, get to understand whatever they are doing, so that when you come up with new ideas, you know the best, how best you can introduce it to them to have them receive this. So that is the key thing I would tell my younger self. I would advise any young person coming into this field, just persistent and just being patient. And they need to know that change in this field is very slow, but let it be steady always.
Patience and persistence. I think that's
Exactly.
really excellent advice for anyone looking to, you know, their future career, but especially as you mentioned in fisheries, things can move a little bit slow sometimes, but we're all very passionate and focused on making it better and making sure that we still have this sector in the future.
This is very, very important, having to share these ideas, whatever we have, getting people to know, understand what is happening on this other side, Kenya, Africa, East Africa, the Western Indian Ocean, getting to understand little by bit. So having that sharing, and I'm like ready to see more podcasts of you doing with other regions so that I can get to understand what is happening on those other side. So thank you very much for the invitation, and say this is very special for me to remember me, actually, to invite me this podcast. I'm always ready here. Anytime you can always have me, and we can do a few talks here and there, and maybe share new things that are coming up on our side. Thank you very much, Anna.
Excellent. That sounds great.